Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wreck your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, your host for this episode of Under the Dome for the week of November 28th, 2022. Here today with my colleague, Luciana, Perez, Uribe, Guinassi. Welcome back, everyone, to work or back in town. If you went out for the Thanksgiving holiday, we are now mid-holiday season, post-Thanksgiving, pre-Christmas, Hanukkah, and New Year. So today we're going to talk about something a little bit lighter to start. It's about the election, but not our who won or lost. I guess it is who lost, because they definitely lost. And we're talking about interesting write-in candidates. And we have quite the range. Our colleague, Avi Bajpai, wrote about this recently in our Under the Dome newsletter. If you don't subscribe to that, you should, and read all our content on newsobserver.com. So we're going to talk about a few of our favorites. These were compiled by the Board of Elections. We had them for Wake County, include like school board, city council, and soil and water. So some of my favorite write-ins were Aubrey Drake Graham, which is Drake, the rapper, if you know him, or Aubrey, if you know him from watching that show Degrassi in Canada before he switched to a music career. Barack Obama is on there. Donald Trump is on there. I think I saw Hillary Clinton. So we have presidential candidates and presidents that are kind of the easy write-in for a lot of these. I've got a few more, but before I get to that, Luciana, what are some of the ones that you noticed?
So I think on everyone's mind recently has been Elon Musk. So he was on there, Kanye West as well. And then on the more cartoon side, you have Superman, Sleeping Beauty, Snoopy, SpongeBob, and getting into the holiday spirit, of course, Santa.
So I went looking for Mickey Mouse because Mickey Mouse always gets write-in, and I counted 15 write-ins for Mickey Mouse in one of those races. Other ones included Erica Smith, which I assume it could be the former state senator that had run for U.S. Senate, or someone else named Erica Smith. Greg Fishel, the former local TV meteorologist, made the list. Speaking of animated characters, Homer Simpson made it. I didn't see a Lisa or Marge, though, just a Homer. The Holy Ghost, while we were in the H's. And then also in the H's, Hubert Davis, who we mentioned on the podcast last week, the UNC basketball coach. I also saw a Jay Kennedy. I thought it was funny that they didn't just say like John F. Kennedy, or maybe it's some other Kennedy. For soil and water, there was one called John Topsoil, which is pretty funny. Marty McFly, for those of you that have seen Back to the Future, know that one. And then a couple were Don't Care and Decline. I guess those are for the voters that feel they just really need to write something and, decline. I decline to write anything in this space by writing the word decline. So, and what else do you think, Luciana, about just the idea of writing candidates? And have you ever written in anything?
No, I have not. But I was, you mentioned before that there are 2 Dawns on there. Right. And I was thinking about my name. I haven't checked, but I doubt there will be any Lucianas in there.
Maybe. Yeah, the 2 Dawns looked like a lot of the names when I was going through were just random people's names. So I assume they just wrote in themselves, which is funny. So,
or just me.
Right. They could have just written me. So I actually have the document open. I'm going to look up Luciana while we're here. I'm so sorry. There's no one voted for you.
I'm so surprised.
All right. Well, moving on to the General Assembly. It'll look different in January, not just because of who was elected or who lost, but some weren't running because they were going for something else. So, Luciana, tell us about that.
Yeah, so this election changed North Carolina's delegation in the U.S. House from an 8 Republican to 5 Democrat split to an equal 7-7 split. And a lot of the new representatives are first-timers in the Capitol. as well as former state senators. So my colleague Danielle Battaglia, the DC correspondent for McClatchy for the News and Observer, wrote about the newly elected reps' first week, so freshman orientation, so to say. So she goes into tons of insider sort of details about what their first week looked like, from getting new laptops and phones, setting up security settings, getting a thick binder full of information for setting up their congressional offices prior to January, as well as attending House Speaker Pelosi's announcement that she would not be in a leadership role for the next Congress, for the 118th Congress. So it's really interesting. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend checking it out. She's on break, so she couldn't plug her own story here today, but definitely check it out. And also, Don, 5 of the newly elected representatives are former state senators. So can you tell me a bit about them or give some insight into their past records?
Sure. I thought one note in Danielle's story when she was interviewing Congressmember Jeff Jackson, who was in the state Senate, he mentioned that they didn't get that quite the same orientation at the legislature. I'm not really sure what their orientation is. Any lawmakers that are listening, I'm kind of interested in what that experience is like. Maybe it's just a very thin binder or a piece of paper. I'm not really sure. The other thing that stood out to me in her story was that Jeff Jackson talked about how everyone's offering him coffee all the time, which is funny if you think about the General Assembly, because there is coffee. There's the parody Twitter account and CGA Coffee Pot. The coffee is not for the press corps or for anyone but the lawmakers. Theoretically, it's for everybody, but it's really just for them in committee rooms. So anyway, that's a little aside from the building there. Jackson, he might be this way in Congress too. In the Senate, I feel like maybe since I've been covering him, he's been running for or thinking about running for more than his current role. So he does a fair amount of time giving floor speeches that he'll record, or his supporters, fellow lawmakers, will record for him that he'll use in his own work. Wiley Nickel is the same. I used to sit behind both of them on the Senate before they got rearranged their seats each session. On that same row, kind of in the back right corner, Don Davis was also previously sat near Nickel and Jackson 2 sessions ago. And Davis also is known for his lively floor speeches, especially when he felt that Eastern North Carolina was or wasn't getting the support it deserved, if some of you all remember that. And those 3 are Democrats. Valerie Foushee is a Democrat too. Chuck Edwards is a Republican. Edwards was a pretty prominent state senator for Republicans, had various leadership roles and committees. So his voice will certainly be noticed that he won't be there. Foushee is more of a reserved senator. I honestly can't think of in the past few years if she had given floor speeches. She has been involved in the Legislative Black Caucus, but she's more of a behind-the-scenes type of state senator. She might end up being the same. Of course, she represents an area of the state that isn't always very quiet. Durham and Chapel Hill, those politics are always interesting. She replaces David Price. The district is a little bit different now, and if maps are redrawn, will change again. So Foushee, I'd say, is more reserved. Edwards, we'll see how he fills his role. He's replacing Madison Cawthorn, so obviously it's going to be very different. Edwards is also more reserved, and he's older than Cawthorn. And Nickel, we'll find out about. This is new for him, and it's interesting to see just how excited all of them are and what they'll actually do for the state once they are actually in DC and finish their orientation, which I understand as you all are listening to this, they'll be back after their own Thanksgiving break and learning more. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a little bit more about the upcoming legislative session 2023, potential vetoes, plus our picks for headliner of the week. We'll be right back. You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm News and Observer Politics reporter Dawn Vaughan, here with my colleague Luciana, Perez, Uribe, Guinassi. Before the break, we talked about the writing candidates and changes at the legislature because some state senators are now under the big dome in Washington, D.C. But let's talk a little bit about the upcoming legislative session and some of what's at play.
Dawn, you actually just published a story looking forward into some of the shifts that have happened in the power structure and what that means for Cooper's veto power. Can you tell me a bit about that?
I took a look at what Cooper's vetoed this year. The legislative session isn't officially out. They'll probably adjourn sine die in December. They would need to before coming back in January, briefly in January and then February for the long session. So I took a look at what he vetoed because of what's changed. The Senate now has a veto-proof supermajority, but it's only veto-proof if everybody's there, everyone votes, because it's just an exact supermajority that they have in the Senate. So I looked at what Cooper vetoed this past year. It was really only 6 bills. Part of that is it was the legislative short session, so there wasn't a whole lot going on. One early in the year was over, it was sort of the tail end of COVID, not restrictions, but drama over it, because there weren't any statewide, but it was about masks in schools, and that had already shifted to control at the local level. But that was one that he vetoed. There was a little more of a technical bill about concealed carry permit lapse, and I think gun legislation is something that we'll probably see coming up because they might have the votes to have some sort of gun legislation either way if Republicans, especially in the House, since they're one vote short of a supermajority, will be trying to get some Democrats to vote with them on those issues. There was also a cooperation with ICE bill, so there's a chance that would resurface. Looking back the year before when Cooper vetoed, I think it was 16 bills in 2021. One was it was the anti-critical race theory bill. There was a Parents' Bill of Rights bill this year that didn't end up going to his desk, I don't think, that was regulating teaching about LGBTQ issues in schools. So both of those issues regulating public school education could come up in a bill. Maybe it was part of something that was vetoed before in years past that Republicans will try to run again now that they have more votes. So, all right. Well, let's get to our picks for headliner of the week. Luciana, what is your headliner this week?
So for me, it's the World Cup. I'm from Peru, so soccer over there is a huge deal. We would always get together, our whole family, eat a ton of food, and just watch the games together. So this year, I'll be following some of the games, even though Peru did not classify. Not surprisingly, we're not very good. But yeah, that's my headliner.
There's been a lot of grim news lately, and sports is one way to kind of shine a light and relief with everything that's going on. I'll also do something that's a little fun, and it's all the leftovers from Thanksgiving. If y'all are listening to this Monday morning, they're still good if it was made Thanksgiving. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, I don't know. It depends on what the food is, or maybe not everyone is trying to get it. In my house, we also, my sister, her family cooked the turkey, let us take home a little bit of leftovers, but we also made ham this past week. So hopefully I'll have a few more days of that. Did you get to save anything after dinner?
Yeah, so I'm eating leftovers today, and my doggy had some leftovers this morning, so we're all enjoying it.
All right. So headliner is Thanksgiving leftovers and all the upcoming treats season that we have with the holidays. So
doggies rejoice U.S. wide.
Right. Well, we're a little shorter this week because we're coming off the holiday, and there's more. There's, of course, the legislature is still out. Congress is starting to do some things, and we'll bring more episodes and interviews with everyone this coming month as we head into December. So I'm Dawn Vaughan for Luciana. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.